Hi again, FCBC fam. My name is Jess. I am your host. We're here for another episode of For Creators by Creators, a place for content creators and artists of any kind to gather, to connect, to communicate with one another, and to learn from those that have gone before us the tools and tricks and techniques to actually get paid for your work and to actually get your work seen and to make sure that your work is protected, to have a little fun along the way. So today I'm very excited to introduce our guest, Rick Barrio Dill. Hello, Rick. How are you doing?
I am amazing. Yeah. Who doesn't love, we're all creators, who doesn't love talking about we're walking through right now. So thank you for having me on.
Of course. And you are like truly a multi-hyphenate creative, right? You've done everything from entertainment and entrepreneurship to you've traveled the world and performed with some of the most iconic bands of all time with your band Vintage Trouble.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about the beginnings of your journey and some of the highlights of your career so far?
Sure. I'm a musician by trade. That was the thing that I realized really early on. We toured with Lenny Kravitz for a little while, not to name drop, watch your feet. But here's a quote that I love that kind of defines, I think, what drew me in to the whole thing, which was there's certain musical moments that I'm closer to the creator than any other time on earth. And I agree with that because you can get that through music in a way that when I was a kid, I would listen to certain records and just feel something that it was. And I just wanted to be around it the whole time. And luckily, I had a musical aptitude, and my mom and the family, my dad was all into really good music like Motown and the Beatles and lots of soul. And so it led me to just pick up a guitar, and then kind of my family realized, oh wow, he's got talent, because I was just picking stuff right off the radio or just picking stuff right off the records. And I knew I wanted a life in music, but I also saw a lot of my friends as I was coming up. I was in a band by the time I was 16, making money, and I was touring by the time I was, like 20, 21, around the southeast. I grew up in Florida. I'm from Miami. My mother's Cuban, and just being around, being around all of that kind of sauce from Miami and that kind of upbringing, I brought that out to Los Angeles in the hopes of not having a ceiling, because in Florida and a lot of other places, you would hit the ceiling, This was at a time, this was more like in the 90s when records were still actual commodities. They weren't just ones and zeros, they were actual things that you would sell, tangible products. And so, that basically led me out to Los Angeles, where I've been here for the last like 25 years. I consider myself a total Angelino. I love it. It's my favorite city on earth. But my story is long, because the first probably 10 years I was in Los Angeles, like a lot of people's experience of Los Angeles. It's big. It's the most diverse place, on planet Earth, in my opinion. And you have the opportunity to have unlimited growth here, but you have to watch who you put yourself around. You have to watch who is around you, who is in your ear. And I think while you're getting your bearings in a town like this, and any town where, there's a lot of people kind of all on top of each other, there's a lot of commiseration. There's a lot of misery. There's a lot of, man, it sucks here. The traffic's just, awful. Or, Jesus, I went to this, audition and it was this or whatever. And that is true. But at the same time, your life can change in a city like this in a blink of an eye. Yeah, because, how we're here today, even talking in Beverly Hills, the story how to get here with this studio. I did music for a while, and then luckily my band Vintage Trouble came together at a time in 2010 where music was kind of like right before Amy Winehouse, but it was at this time where our style of band and rhythm and blues and soul and everything, we had been all living in LA before and playing in different bands before, but we were doing the same thing everybody else was doing, which was I have a saying that everybody the only people making money in the music business are people making money off of people trying to make money in the music business.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize that, but then there's a next level where actually money is getting made, and the business is happening, but the rules and the physics are different than what you think it is down in other levels. And so a lot of that had to do with the fact that we as a bunch of guys in Los Angeles, we didn't want to have to do the thing that we had done. So if we had not had all the trials and tribulations, it wouldn't have aligned all four of our brains at the same time to have this, by all means necessary, say yes to everything. There is no, there is only dominate. And we took over the town. We had four residencies a week all over town. If you looked at it on a map, we had Los Angeles completely cornered, and we caught the attention of our manager, Doc McGee, one of the most famous managers of all time. He's managed Motley Crue, Guns N'
Wow.
Roses, Kiss. He did Bon Jovi. Getting around a manager like that, he asked, well, what did we want to do? Well, hey, we just took over Los Angeles in the course of less than a year. We were doing 4 nights a week all over Los Angeles, all sold out, and people were coming to kind of all 4 of them. That was where it clicked.
Yeah.
We realized it's not necessarily about us. The music's great. The performance is going to be great. It's about what we were creating for the people that were coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what happened on the breaks in between our sets, because you wanted to be there because some of the most coolest artists of all kinds, poets, painters, other musicians, filmmakers and everything that was the place to be. It was all about building that community. And so when we got our manager, he's like, what do you want to do? Want to do the same thing, but in London. A lot of our heroes had done it in London. We went over, did a television show called The Jules Holland Show, which is one of the most, it's probably the biggest music show in the world. It's fascinating. We would never have the demographics to get it done here, but if you're not familiar with the Jules Holland Show or later with Jules Holland, it's broken like Amy Winehouse and Oasis. It's tons of bands. You go there, it's a taste-making show, but it's on the BBC, it's live, and they put 6 bands in this big giant room in a circle, or 6 artists, and they put the cameras in the middle, and then they just go live for an hour. The throw, when they throw from the UK to Europe to Australia to parts of Asia and everything like that, it's bigger than the Super Bowl by the time it's done, and all over the world, the numbers. And so we played it, and we were very, very fortunate because we're basically like Bruno Mars's band with a drug habit. We had normally been playing a song at a certain tempo, and we were so nervous because it's live, and we played it so fast. It was blistering. It was the fastest we ever played it. We thought when we were done, it was like a bit of shock, but we were juxtaposed over 5 other great artists. We did our thing, and our lives changed before we left the BBC parking lot. We were the number 6 most tweeted thing in the world. We instantly got the tour with Brian May that led to doing stadiums with Bon Jovi that led to, we've done 2 tours with Lenny Kravitz. We've done AC/DC on 2 to 3 different continents with 52 stadium shows, one of them being the largest live open air show ever in Europe. And it just allowed us the opportunity to understand, that next level, where now we're in the buffet. We're inside. Whereas before we could only smell the food from outside the door, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get in, now it's a different set of physics that you realize, especially for us. And we signed an odd contract at an odd time in the business where it was becoming, why do I need a record label anymore?
Yeah.
Can I do it independently? Why not? For us, we toured 10 years. It was great. And then the pandemic hit. And overnight, we had always been able to tour. That was 100% of our money almost. Everything switched to ones and zeros with Napster and with streaming and everything. You were no longer selling really physical product. You're not getting paid for the most part. You release it to Spotify, and the great thing for us was we got to kind of experience that part where all of us were getting iPods in our phones.
Yeah.
And we experienced kind of the rise of sort of social media where Instagram was coming online when we were sort of coming online. But the pandemic hit through all this time, and eventually can't tour anymore. That took out 95% of our business overnight, and it really restructured the music business in total because there's insurance that goes into underwriting tours. There's buses that are needed for things. And so when the pandemic happened, everybody was inside of their house, which then produced a ton of new music. But then when the pandemic let out, we did a tour last summer. It was a 2-month tour of Europe, and you had to have a bus a year and a half in advance because there's just a shortage of buses, and now there's so many bands descending on festival season. It's devalued everything in such a way that you said something yesterday. You better be doing it for the fun of it. You better be doing it with not money in primary concern slot. And so that was a restructuring, and at the same time, as a band, we had been doing it for so long, we agreed to take a hiatus. And so that led me, I had been studying the podcasting space, and more importantly, what has been happening to the business of just content creation in general. As a musician or a content creator, you could see the direction going down, where I look at it like this. Steve Jobs, when he put GarageBand in every MacBook Pro that went out the door, overnight you created a whole world of engineers and producers that were not there the previous night before, because now it's already on board on their computer. And that flattened things out in a way that also changed the industry, where you could see, oh wow, this is empowering the creator. When he did that, that was his mission for doing it, empowering the creator. And I think with a lot of these AI tools and things like that hopefully we'll get into, there's a lot of empowerment coming on for the creator, and that's where I got into the podcast and content creation space. We had a studio for the last couple of years in Hollywood Media District that was great. And when that lease came up, we had the opportunity to come over here in Beverly Hills, and it's even better. We have a partner that's in the production industry, where they're realizing in real time what happened, 20 years ago. Because if I can make a movie with my phone, why do I need the studios again? It's the same thing with I have GarageBand on my computer. Grimes did her first best-selling record all on GarageBand.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
Right. So let's talk. Empowering the creators is what inspired me to create Slap Studios and Slap Music Media, where we sort of understand that as creators, taking a hold of our content, making better content, doing how do you rise above? Then as a group, I think we're going to need to band together to kind of figure our way through this next 10 years in the future, and how fast technology is moving, or AI or anything like that. That's why we're here, and that's why I'm so glad you asked or had me on the show, because I know that's at the root of what you guys are trying to get at as well.
Absolutely. And I have so many questions, but to your point, you've seen it all, truly. Like, you've seen the amount of acceleration that we've experienced in this world in the last 30 years when it comes to technology, when it comes to the tools available to us to create art and to have it seen and to amplify it. It's insane. And we're now at that, that boiling point with AI, as we said. We'll get to that in a second, where there's probably never been a moment where there's more opportunities to create or lower barrier to entry to start.
Absolutely.
And yet, as you said, from the traditional systems, when you're backed by an agency, or you're backed by a studio, or you're working with within the
record label or anything,
exactly. When you're in that traditional system, or when you're in kind of the Web 2 tools, right? Like the ones that we've all gotten used to, the social media platforms, the MacBook programs, and now leaning into Web 3, it's still kind of that question of, okay, well, now that there is such a saturated market, how do you get yourself seen? How do you get yourself, how do you find your brand? How do you find your niche? And then how do you find a way to get paid, right, for that content? And I didn't do a great job mentioning at the beginning, but Rick is the owner of the studio that we have been here filming at, and he's created this truly beautiful space for people to sit down and have these conversations. And I know that you had mentioned to me off camera that the pandemic, it brought people together. Again, we have all of these tools that kind of had their moment in the sun when we were at home and needed to have a way to connect and to express. But there is such a beautiful cadence that you're able to flow into when you're in person together and you're just having that conversation. I think that with the journey that you had, you mentioned that one of the moments, like that Twitter was kind of one of the initial stars in your story with the BBC show, and with the fact that that was amplified at that point. So you've seen the creator tools gamut, right?
Yeah.
When did you guys move into putting your own content out there more?
Yeah.
And was there a really deep tension with like the traditional systems, with the studio, with the record label?
It's a great question, and it's really, when we went to London and we did a showcase and then got invited to be on the Jules Holland show, we were supposed to be there for like 3 days. They kept us for 3 months in London, because what had happened is we experienced the problem with doing that, with the ceiling that hit us there, with doing out of the trunk of our car, because we did a show like that. It went bananas on Twitter, it went and all over the world, and then our website crashed. At the time, we really didn't have anything in place to go worldwide. And so what happened was, we were going we would have bags, like Santa Claus bags, just full of CDs and things that people were buying, everything that we have video of us taking it to like the Liverpool post office in between, before our gig with, Brian May or something, just to try and handle the demand. But now, looking back in retrospect, the higher guard was ready to then take our proven product and put it in the marketplace. But the way that guard works, it needs a ramp up. They want it done their specific way. They got to have their certain people that are on the PR team, and this is the plan, and this is the way we're going to hit it. So you got to not only agree to who those people are, which can take a long time, especially if you're just already taking off. Now, by this time we're doing stadiums with Bon Jovi, right? It's like what played out was we were always chasing an infrastructure that was trying to fit us into the old. That's how you would do when people need 6 months worth of PR income to justify their job.
Yeah.
We see it now. What are you going to, if you do 6 months worth of PR before a movie, no matter how good it is, a week later, it's going to be there's a vacuum that's going to pull it out, and something else is going to fill that, because we just have this we hit this technological arc where we have this insatiable need for new content, which means speed is now at the top of the need, right? And so we could never react fast enough to the market that we were actually living through.
Yeah.
And that created a problem for us that we wound up chasing a lot, because then by the time we kind of got cemented with that inside that infrastructure, it was really like the dinosaur. It was really, at that time, like Capitol Records, you'd go through there and 75% of the offices were empty, inside the building. It's just completely, it's like ghost towns. And you're like, these are people that are all just trying to hang on to their jobs.
Yeah.
And when we started to realize that, we're like, oh, wow. And the other thing is there's no substitute for, this is the egalitarian part of it that is really great from a creator's perspective, is you can't substitute for the number of streams you get. That doesn't lie, right? When your numbers are there and stuff like that. And so I think for a band like us, we make you feel something. When you come see us, you feel something. But
you connect.
Yeah. But during the pandemic, we tried to keep doing that. We tried to extend that, and you realize it's just music and performance on a 2-dimensional flat screen with latency and bad sound. It's just not a way for it to be enjoyed. And for us, when we started coming out of that, and we were like, okay, we don't want. After our third record deal, we were like, okay, this is just dumb. Why? Right? We just had to fully bet on ourselves. And when you finally do that, then you're in control a lot more. And that's not to say if you're not super young or super popular, the muscle of that same infrastructure is still there, and you need that if you fit in the bell curve right in that middle. Yeah. But there's an amazing world for everybody that's on all the outsides if you want to take it on yourself. And for us, that was where we were headed, and then the pandemic hit, and then some health issues that we kind of had to deal with as a family. So it created the space for me to create this, to have conversations like this, because everybody else is going through the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
If you're not one of those ones that are in the center of the bell curve, everybody out here that are on these edges are having the same conversation. How do you get and build an audience, and to your point, monetize it? The thing that I love is it's marketing. We've all, if you're a creator nowadays, you have to be a killer marketer.
Yeah.
Or have a killer marketer on your team, somebody who's steering that.
One of the things that was interesting is when you were talking about kind of the early days with the band, that you guys had cornered the four corners of LA, and that you had people going to every single show. You were able to create kind of that community. You were able to rally them and have them understand and recognize and witness the unique Vintage Trouble experience, right? And it sounds like that was before you could use social media. How did you guys do that without the tool that we all have now to get people to show up and to tune in and to subscribe and all the things?
For Vintage Trouble itself, we had something that if you were to take any piece out of it and try to replace it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we're 4 alpha males, and 4 very, very strong opinions and personalities. And you only kind of put that kind of thing together like once in a lifetime, because the spark, that friction is what you need. We would just capture, it was Ty's idea to capture testimonials. So we would just go outside and ask people, how do you feel about that, the set, or what are you here to do? What do you think about Vintage Trouble? And it was so, you just let other people kind of sell it for us. And then we would put that into little videos, and it was kind of like our earliest form of like promo videos before you could just constantly pelt people with you can. Now, that's the problem, in my opinion, now, is for the longest time, then Facebook or Meta or Twitter or wherever your platform is, it started rewarding paid ads, for so long. But then it was, okay, then it's an arms race, right? Which then it's whoever has the most money. That's not necessarily the best content that's getting in front of you for your algorithm and such. And now it's the cycle seems to be where it's rewarding more. At least TikTok has kind of brought this in, where it's rewarding more organic and more lo-fi material.
Unedited,
Yeah,
just kind of
unedited.
raw.
The only way it works is if you have somewhere for the person to go. If you're looking for new people online, right? If you're trying to get new people online, which means basically you got to have some kind of a funnel. And if your music is the funnel, or if your podcast is a funnel, or something, where are we steering that? And for us, when we didn't have to deal with all that, it was easier to get in front of our friends. It felt like the algorithm was a lot more pure. We could speak a lot faster. And it's just different now. One of the things is 5 years ago, there were 60,000 tracks a day getting uploaded to Spotify. 3 years ago, there was 90,000. Right now, there's 120,000 tracks being uploaded every day to Spotify, which is roughly about 1 million a week.
I mean, I think that gives us such a good picture, because your music career, I mean, rock music in Hollywood, right? Like at the heyday that we're also curious about that moment in time. You got to experience that amongst legends. You guys got to share that moment and to thrive in that moment, and to find your audience and to find your community. And then, as you said, obviously these tools kind of were working with the existing systems, but then the pandemic hits and suddenly everybody has to rethink everything. Everybody has to reimagine, what does it even mean to have an art form in isolation, or in when your ability to tour is taken away from you. And so to see that these tools that we have available, we're poised for more success. We're poised for more opportunity than ever before. It's democratized access. You're not, like you said, having to go through these gatekeepers or through these systems. And yet it's always changing. And we know, like, the algorithms can be sometimes just as oppressive as the traditional systems. We know that it's a leap of faith, and oftentimes it bites you when you put your content out there and it's now in the ether, and you don't have control over how frequently it's going to be used or how to keep that chain of ownership, right? And now we're moving into Web3 with all of these AI-driven tools and these emerging technologies. I'm curious to hear now, because I know you have a lot of thoughts and experience around the transformational moment we're at now with AI especially. Do you want to speak a little bit about what is the future going to look like? The near future, tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a promise there that we've heard before. We're familiar with this before, and at the same time, this is unlike anything else we've ever dealt with in humanity. We were talking about that arc where we were on earlier, and so the data's out now. We have 10 years, on it. No notifications are only about 8 years or 9 years.
Isn't that crazy?
To the human brain.
Yeah.
So let's
meat mind.
Yeah. So to your neurological pathways, ding, this constant ding that sends you off your. That's new to now. Imagine we have a developed brain, or if you're past 25 or whatever. Imagine the kids going through this, right? And what does that do to your neural pathways and stuff? And so for AI, I think the problem is it's at a place where almost all of us have to now approach this from a brand or from an entrepreneur's perspective. If you make content of any kind and you want it to either help people, or if you want to, monetize or anything like that, or work with brands, we have to embrace it, because it is making the cost to bring content and better quality content and things like that. That is improving, right? It's doing a lot of things, but it's also, there was an anecdote about a ChatGPT 4 aced the California bar, right? And how overnight paralegals should be kind of looking for the exits, because once you put all the case material on there and all the rulings and stuff, you can start to really do a lot of that job automatically, instantly. Even in the 2.5 years we've been a business, we've instituted tools that we use on a monthly basis. We review our tools to see what might be available to make us better as a company or better as a studio. Now, that doesn't answer the artistic question that you're asking about, right? Which is, how do artists or creators approach this AI? And I think we're going to have to be noisy and loud, because I saved something for that. Can I read it to you real quick? This is amazing, and I just want to kind of put this on there. This is real truth. March 29th, 2023. More than 1,000 tech leaders urge a pause on AI development, signing a letter about it presenting, quote, profound risks to society and humanity. That's March 29th, a little over a year ago. April 27th, tech pioneer Jeffrey Hinton, a.k.a. the godfather of AI, resigns from Google, saying he regrets his life work.
Yeah.
Okay. November 17th, a power struggle over safety temporarily deposes OpenAI CEO Sam Altman.
Yeah.
Why, and why did he come back? Because speed wins over safety, right? February 12th of this year, an AI safety researcher, Dr. Roman Yampolsky, says there's no proof AI can be controlled. 1 month later, he gives humanity a 99.9999 probability of doom. Okay, I'm not done.
I have chills.
No, I'm not done. March 11th of this year, a report commissioned by the U.S. State Department warns AI could lead to human extinction. And on May 17th, OpenAI dissolves its safety team. So, you know what I'm saying?
Mic drop.
You know what I'm saying? We can't trust a bunch of octogenarians in our country to be able to deal with this.
Yeah.
We can't trust capitalism. We certainly can't trust greed to deal with this. And so I think as creators, this is where I actually have hope. As we get better on figuring out the ways that they're kind of, blocking things and make it work for money and not work for the people, people that are actually given the money, the content in the case of, the big four or whatever. I think as these tools come about, we're getting really, really creative at pushing back at the system. And for as disastrous as that debate performance was, AI was already at work during the debate, putting misinformation and disinformation out there of all types, right? And we can't expect these companies to police it. And that's why, real life conversations. That's why getting out there, inspiring people in a way, finding out, having the conversations. Okay, what is your problem as a content creator? What is the hurdles that you're hitting into? And most people are like, well, how do I get paid?
How do I get paid?
How do I get paid?
How can I make a living out of this thing?
And my opinion right now, if you don't answer this first question, everything else becomes a problem. And the first question is, what are you selling? What is the brand that is infused into your content? Because if you're just doing content to try and get recognized for being a celebrity or a person that makes funny stuff, that's one thing, okay? But if you're not funneling everything into an integrated business model, you're leaving all these other opportunities on the table. I heard you talk yesterday in one of the other pods, like, how do we manage all these different platforms? Do I need to be everywhere, or should I just focus on one and go hardcore? I think this is where AI, telling you what your market is, helping you be better about, being in touch with whatever it is that is your market or your mission or whatever. Then if we're using the tools, that's great. But along the way, we have a macro problem that we have to deal with, which is basically government ain't going to solve that problem, right?
Yeah. How do we slow it down?
Yeah. And that I feel like we're almost going to have to make sure to be so loud coming up. We have some problems on our hands that are only exacerbated by AI. And so on the creator side of things, I think if we can use these tools to also infuse it into part of our mission together. That's why I created SLAP. The acronym for it is Sonics, Love, Action, Progress. And it's basically anyone with a voice loud enough. If you put the love down and if you put the action into it, one foot in front of the other, and do the work, we're going to progress.
There needs to be some lens of hope, some lens of action, some lens of future, right? And not just doom.
For creators, Taylor Swift figured it out, but if you watch her documentary, it took, I think it was 10 years or 12 years, where she finally pushed back against Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee and realized the power she had.
Oh, yeah.
She was scared. You saw it in the documentary. She was like, no, I want to do this. And all of her people, her family are telling her, no, you're going to alienate half your fan base. And she was like, no, I have to do this. This is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so she sit there and they hit send on Twitter and it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then she realized she's the most powerful woman in this country.
Oh my gosh.
Right? What did you realize? You realized that you were giving away your power. That's what she realized on camera. That's why that, even talking about that moment right now, makes my hair stand up.
I just got a chill too.
She realized her power as a result of that. She got it back. And now look at the swagger she's got, doing the biggest stadium tours all over the world.
Creating actual economies.
Yes. And
like the way that her tour literally shook the earth in, I don't know which country it was, but there was literally like an earthquake.
All over in Scotland, all over they can register earthquakes from. And watching that whole journey, her relationship with her fans is the penultimate. It's everything, and then all the other stuff is a byproduct, right? And so I feel like watching her step into her power as someone who can affect policy that affects people's lives. That's power, and that's where I want to focus on is assembling voices for power's sake, because they've been using power corruptly for a long time against us, and money is always on one side of this equation, right? The power, this is where artists stop giving up your power.
Yeah.
Stop giving it up. So if that means you've got to figure out, okay, well, what am I selling? And then have my content as a funnel to drive it back to where people can then find me to further what it is that I'm selling. But in a consumerist capitalist society, we are all targets. We all have everybody wants our money. Everybody wants our money. So we're fighting. So we have to fight that same war.
Absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things you're saying, obviously, as the creator, don't give away your power. But I think even that first step is
it's almost impossible when you're starting from zero.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also recognize what is your power. You can't understate the transformative power of art, right? Like
Hallelujah.
From the beginning of time.
Hallelujah.
It is the thing that gives people purpose. It is the thing that connects people. It is the thing that makes people see themselves outside of themselves. That moment when they can connect and say, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, or that changed the way I look at this one particular thing, or I actually just feel for the first moment like somebody understands me, right? Like that is usually what compels us to create, right? And that has power. We've seen art change the world in the past in all of its various forms. To echo your point, it's figure out how to protect your art and your power, but also recognize the power that you do have to begin with, right?
I would be careful with the protect, because then that puts us in a sort of timid, stance. And I think, yes, obviously but I think it's, in business, they call it, what is it? Building a moat around your business or whatever. It's protecting yourself, limiting your downside, right? Yeah. You have to use the tools that are available to you, whatever those are, right? If you don't have any equipment, your phone is plenty of equipment. We got an award. We have a video we shot on, it was iPhone 3s at the time, but we had a dozen different iPhone 3s that we put together in this big kind of machine. We won an award for it. It was really cool. And that was it. And you can do anything nowadays. Don't buy into a lot of the limitations. Right,
Yeah.
that's a lot of the giving away the power. What camera is the best camera for a situation? Whatever camera you have on you.
Yes.
And I think moving into the future, as these platforms change, and people are like, well, I did great on TikTok, but and then they changed this algorithm, and now my videos aren't doing as well anymore, and everything. That to me just feels like TikTok should just be an extension of what you already have going. If you are if you're a photographer and you sell, your prints or whatever, okay, well then steer people to how they can find out, more about your prints and your art. If you're an artist and you have to make a show about, wanting to talk to other artists about their situation, and when you have people on and you're doing all these cross collaborations, that is how we can kind of, start to reach in other places. But to me, nothing substitutes for proactive going out there and finding new audience, right? There's a rapper out there called Harry Mack, and he's amazing. He goes up to anybody, anywhere. He gets a group of people, and he says, "Give me a word. Give me a bunch of words, crazy words," and then he does a freestyle rap over their crazy words, and he works it in. And he's done it inside the like the biggest sports teams, all the way down to he'll just walk around Venice Beach and stuff like that. And this guy's just been grinding. He's so dope. It's ridiculously dope. And what happens is, if you keep doing it, the people find you.
Yeah.
They will find you. You just got to keep being as true as you can to himself, because what he does, it's original, it's unique, it's entertaining, it's
Not
uplifting.
everybody can do it.
Not everybody can do it, and it makes people feel good. And he just took his content to the people. He just went at it, rather than, what can I do to have it coming at me?
Yeah.
Screw that. What can I do to go get it?
Exactly.
And that's much more of a front-footed attitude. And surround yourself with people that aren't going to tell you why you can't do something to make themselves feel better or whatever. That kind of noise getting into your ears and stuff like that. No, you have all you need inside, and you can have your advisors, and they better be people you trust.
Yeah.
And then when they show you can't trust them, they got to hit the door. You got to send them to the door. But assemble a team around you, because it takes a village. No matter what you're doing in this day and age, I don't care if you're doing a podcast, like a dope ass podcast, or you're doing a band or anything. It takes a village.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I feel like we're almost at an hour already. It goes so fast.
Yeah.
But I love everything you shared. And one of the things that we want to make sure we always leave for the audience are some key like action items or bits of wisdom from your journey that they might be able to implement in their own lives today.
Sure.
Is there any key learning or any key tool set even in this? You said you guys do an audit of your tools every month to make
Yeah.
sure that they're current. Are there any tips you would give to people that are just really building their brand in this economy?
Know what you are.
Yeah.
Know what you are. If you're going to do something with somebody else, know collectively where you're going. And the clearer you can be with your vision and where you want to end up, and the more time you can spend visualizing that and being there, the more that you're going. This is all energy. Our whole experience in this rock, it's all energy. We're all the same. We're all connected.
Yeah.
And the sooner we get in touch with that and can all pipe into the source together, for the teams that we're working with, the better. And if you're doing it by yourself, then you make sure that the people around you, you're as clear as you can with your vision, and realize that when experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. So a lot of times you're like, oh wow, well, chalk that expense up to consulting, right? And I learned if you have a vision and if you have the drive, again with Sonics, love, action, progress, if you have the drive and you do it long enough and you keep going at it with knowing where you're going and visualizing that, you'll get there, and the universe will bend your way. Now the tools and everything and this minutia that we deal with on, did Google change the algorithm today? My eyes X out on that kind of stuff. So, but luckily we have somebody on our team that loves that shit. He's fighting Lord Algo, that he gets up in the morning and is
He's
like
just
rolling
putting on
up
his armor.
sleeves.
He's like, let's
It's
go.
like, I'm ready to fight Lord
go.
Algo today. Let's do this. And me, I lose it, right? That's because I think 10% of your bag should be on social media. The rest should be on developing the best content and really being clear on who you are, what you want, and where you're going.
Yeah. So one of my last questions is, we've touched on so many parts of the evolution of content and creation, right? So now that we're in this Web3 world, what is that going to look like for content creators?
The blockchain was one of the things I felt like could save the music business, which is emblematic of the content business writ large. And the reason why is because if you can start tracking digital IP, and if you can start associating ownership to digital IP, what happened, you listen to the Grammys now and somebody wins a Grammy in like hip hop or R&B, there's 15 people on the track, right? Because it's just the way that the system goes now. Imagine tracking that across 15 different publishing companies or something. That's one song on a Beyonce record that's got like 24 songs on it or something like that, right? Blockchain was built for that kind of stuff, to be able to make sure that everybody gets paid. There's so much opportunity there that it's kind of is like the Wild West. I love the combination of community-based ecosystem that it sets up for creators where you can then sort of monetize actual things. The blockchain and Web3 specifically gives us the potential to put ownership and to put a way of dealing with tracking, accounting, and keeping people accountable in a way that I hope it has enough muscle to push over a conventionally capitalistic structure that benefits on, there used to be where it was the information, and the people that had the information, you would have to pay them a lot of money
To get it, the
to
gatekeeping.
get it. Yeah, gatekeeping. Now information's everywhere. I got a little 4-year-old kid I follow who plays bass, better than I ever could, right? He's had YouTube since he was 2. I think this is amazing. We're producing a caliber of sort of artists that is on another level, and at the same time we're giving our power away because the content has just become ubiquitous with, oh well, I'm not going to make any money off of it, let me just give it to Google. Oh well, I'm not going to make any money, and this is where Web3 allows us to rewrite that in a way. Like, there's no substitute for 80 million streams. That's $300,000 in my bank account every month, right? And for when people look at that, that's the way that that's the way you're keeping score. And the blockchain and Web3 allows the people that loved benefiting off of a corrupt system or off of a heavily skewed system, they're not going to have that ability in an open accounting structure where all of it's transparent, like the blockchain and like on Web3. So my hope is that we can, as a society, adapt it, get comfortable enough with it in a way to adapt sort of the digital currency in a way that makes that makes this a lot easier. I think we're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting out on the outside, you're always worried about nefarious individuals that are going to ruin the whole thing for the whole.
Yeah.
Whether it's democracy or whether it's Web3. The transparency of our business together in a non-transparent ones and zeros kind of world, that's the only way we save it, in my opinion. So.
And that's the power of blockchain, right, is immutable proof of ownership, right? It's being able to say, this exists, I own this.
Yeah.
And
if I die, my heirs have it. It's a legit way. You don't have to deal with probate and government and everybody getting there and getting, because everybody wants their piece, right? That's the way the system used to work. And so a publicist got to get paid. Your managers, your manager assistants, your lawyers, your business managers, everybody's got to get paid on this thing. It's like, what about, there's an AI now that does accounting for me for free. So do I need this anymore? No. Assess your team, and because the world is changing in front of our eyes, and all of our tools and all of the physics that used to work don't work anymore. And that's just what's so beautiful about Gen Z and Gen A. They've figured this out. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the takeaway to your point, where there's an issue at stake with the sheer velocity at which AI has penetrated society, and obviously there are markers in time in which the creators of these technologies are like, we might need to pump the brakes a little bit. But also there's a lot of possibility that's coming through it too. And so if you're a creator that's watching this and you're trying to actually build something and scale, find out the ways you can leverage these tools. Figure out how to prompt ChatGPT to help you, build a podcast outline, or do a freestyle of a song so that you can build off of that and make it something that's truly your own, right? Like, let it be a tool that you can use so that you're able to also achieve that velocity, right?
Yeah. I mean, and be careful, because as everything got flattened out with the product and everything, and how music sounds the same and everything, I went on this AI the other day, and it was like, you can take one loop and then text what you want to put a song around it, and it'll just create. So I was like, I took this one loop, I was like, make a song, a Taylor Swift song, and it did it around it in a way that was, you realize, okay, that's where we are today. And at the same time, listen to an old Donny Hathaway record, or you listen to certain things that that's back to what I was telling you about the Lenny quote. Is certain musical moments have brought me closer to the creator than any other time on earth, and that just makes me realize that music is hitting frequencies in our brains that we don't even understand. That's why it's so fascinating to us. And art of all kinds does that same thing.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We've learned so much from you today. Where can the audience find you?
Sure. So right now, slapstudiosla.com is our website for the studio here. Now we have Slap the Network, which we have several shows that are devoted towards some kind of social progress. We have a show called Daz It, That's All that's amazing. It's Black women's culture for Black women, by Black women. We have another show that's called Character Select, which is basically about video gaming and mental health in it, as told from the creator's perspective. It's at Character Select. And then my show is called Slap the Power, where it is devoted towards really anything in the way, any artist, any kind of artist that is doing art in the way of trying to help with democracy, rights, or climate, one of those three buckets, that everything winds up in one of those three buckets. Holler at me. You can just send an email at info@slapthepower.com. And then the rest of the stuff, the studio itself is open to anybody that's looking to do a pod. We try to help people learn how to create, grow, and monetize their shows or their content.
Absolutely.
So slapstudiosla.com.
Well, thank you again so much. Thank you for tuning into another episode. We're so excited to continue to hear from you, learn from you. If you have any questions, if you have any specific struggles you're dealing with that you want us to ask one of our guests at the next show, please drop them in a comment. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that you're represented. And I'm grateful for people like you, Rick, that are making sure people have ways to be heard.
Thank you. And thank you for your voice and what you guys are doing. I don't think there's almost anything more important right now. Everybody's a creator of some kind, and we have to figure out together how to maneuver this. So thanks for having the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Cut. We did that last time.